Ohio. Coming from the north by boat out of Canada. Across the shimmering water the Erie Indians called the Lake of the Cat. Past emerald green islands, heading toward a shoreline of skyscrapers, wetlands, or a man-made range of mountains. Ohio, coming from the west by car, through towering fields of corn under piercing blue skies. From the east across the Appalachian Plateau, down into the coves and hollows, up again, and across the hills and ridges, sparkling with color that almost breaks the heart. From the south out of Kentucky, across the Spalawathepe, as the Shawnee called it, the mighty Ohio, past the Serpent Mound and the birthplace of a president and the home of a governor, and a museum celebrating the history of African Americans, into the heart of it all, into the mighty Horseshoe, into the prettiest small towns in America. What a grand place to live. What a grand place to visit. People started traveling Ohio more than 200 years ago. For profit or simply adventure, pioneers all. Today, travel has greatly changed. Much of it still intertwined with commerce. Adventure might be too strong a word for a day trip in the Amish country or a boat ride to Put-in-Bay, but tourism is ultimately about the search for a new experience, something that will fire up the imagination or involve the mind and body in a new way. The Ohio Travel Association, the umbrella organization representing the travel and tourism industry in Ohio, celebrates the joy of travel in the Buckeye State. The man who first recognized Ohio's tremendous tourism potential was Paul Sherlock. A native of Perry County, Ohio, Paul Sherlock was a pioneer, a visionary, a groundbreaker. He loved this state, and he knew it well. He knew there was much to discover.
He loved the state, there's no doubt about that, but he also was connected nationally and even internationally, well connected. And he realized the economic potential of this industry that was yet to be born here.
A journalist, Paul's career in the Ohio Department of Development began in 1945. He handled tourism issues, later serving as assistant director for travel and tourism.
Very quiet gentleman, and very much a gentleman, reserved, but burning with pride for the state of Ohio, and knowing full well that he was in a position to really promote it from day one.
He was named director in 1972. He served under Governor James Rhodes on the state of Ohio's first Tourism Advisory Committee.
I first met Paul, I believe, in 1964 at the first meeting of the travel industry, official meeting of the travel industry that Governor Rhodes called, probably at Paul's instigation.
This committee became the Ohio Travel Council and ultimately became the Ohio Travel Association.
I would say that Paul, after we started the Ohio Travel Council and Governor Rhodes formed all this, Paul was a ready-made director, knew all the people in the tourism business in the state of Ohio, and helped to be a cohesive force in holding this group together. And he should be very proud.
Paul Sherlock was a major factor in the growth of Ohio's festivals and the creation of the Ohio Festival and Events Association. Paul was single-minded in his devotion to Ohio and its potential as a top travel destination.
Paul was kind of the leader of a mission that we were all on. He was a mentor to me and a very dear friend, as he was to many of us older people, and a leader from behind.
He was not a man easily discouraged. He believed in Ohio.
Paul was a very warm person, very kind, unassuming. You would not realize if you met him and just saw him the power that he had, if you want to call it power, or the interest that he had in Ohio, and he loved Ohio. So he just sort of beamed. It was just, and when you get to know him, if you mention anything about any other state, he would always say, "Well, Ohio has that. Ohio has that," and he was actually Mr. Ohio.
Paul Sherlock was one of the very few, if maybe the only person who ever existed in state government who lasted through every administration. But Paul Sherlock was one they left alone, because I think even the incoming administration realized what a valuable asset Paul Sherlock was.
The travel industry for the state of Ohio has its origins in Paul Sherlock. Prior to that, it was all smokestacks and heavy industry. But he's the one who, one way or another, brought travel and tourism really basically to where it is today.
And he believed in the men and women who were busy creating Ohio's travel industry.
We could not convince the administrations that they should be devoting time and money to improving tourism. I can recall in those early years, way back in the 60s, when we used to go to Columbus on a monthly regimen and see bags of mail sitting in the office that couldn't be answered because there wasn't any money for stamps or for personnel to answer all of the letters. And now with 1-800-BUCKEYE and the millions of calls that the state now gets, I think Paul realized early on how important it was.
He used to call me at night, and would call me anytime, but sometimes late at night, and say, I think if I were you, Dick, I would be in Senator so-and-so's office tomorrow about 10 a.m. And I would go down and walk in, and they would be waiting for me. And that's kind of the way he worked. He took a back seat, purposely so, and thrust the rest of us, many of whom will be sitting in this seat as well as I, into the forefront.
I first met Paul. I had finally convinced my bosses at Channel 7 in Dayton that we ought to put on a television travel show. And I was looking for things to be able to put on the air, and I went up to Columbus and met Paul Sherlock. And one was shocked to know that Ohio didn't have any film, this was before videotape, on the Buckeye State. And Paul then sat down and talked to me about becoming a member of the Society of American Travel Writers, the professional travel writing organization of North America. And that had a profound effect on my career, and for which I was eternally grateful to Paul Sherlock for bringing it up.
The people in the tourism business knew that they had to get together and be a force to go to the state legislatures, which was done, to have a properly funded program. And Paul was a catalyst on that.
Paul's love of Ohio was a catching thing. It was infectious. We all picked it up from him, I think. There's no explanation for it. A lot of people have a sense of patriotism about their home communities or their home states. But with Paul, it was way beyond that. It was, as I said, a mission kind of approach, that he truly, honestly believed in every good thing, every wonderful potential that we had. And those were the things that came through to those of us who were out there working in the trenches, that we were in and are in the greatest state in the nation, bar none. And Paul made us know that.
In 1974, when the still newly formed Ohio Travel Association voted to create an annual award to honor individuals who had demonstrated outstanding service to the development and promotion of Ohio travel, it was an easy decision to name it the Paul Sherlock Award.
Paul was very important to the tourism industry in Ohio. He was really the driving force behind tourism in Ohio many years ago. An award that honors him is very much deserved by him.
Paul Sherlock passed away in 1977, but his memory lives on in the Paul Sherlock Award and the inspiration he provided to many of today's Ohio tourism leaders.
Paul basically was my mentor. I would not be remiss in saying that he taught me almost everything I know about travel and tourism, the basics. And then then foresaw that I did the right things at the right times with the right people.
Early on at my job in Roscoe, I kept needing information. Everybody kept saying, you've got to do this and you've got to do that, and nobody seemed to know where all this information existed. And somebody told me to call the development department, and I got Paul that way, and from then on my life changed.
I think Paul today would be ecstatic at the progress we've made in the industry. And of course, all goes back to what he started.
Since 1975, the Paul Sherlock Award has been presented at the annual Ohio Travel Association Fall Conference. It is a peer award solicited from the entire OTA membership. A committee screens nominations and trustees then vote by secret ballot. The men and women who have received this award have demonstrated leadership in promoting all areas of Ohio beyond that required by their professional position.
Well, I think it's very important to recognize your peers. And the Paul Sherlock Award was originally intended to be given to people who performed for the state of Ohio above and beyond their jobs. It wasn't intended to be given for what you get paid for. It was to be given for the passion, the sort of thing we were talking about.
They have provided time and counsel to fellow tourism professionals.
I watched and listened to people who didn't know I was watching necessarily, that they were educating me. The Corkys, Marilyn Spencer, who was on my board of directors, Don Patterson, absolutely. Don and I sat for a long time and talked about the industry itself, and I think I was very fortunate, and I don't mean to not mention other people, but everybody that I came in contact with really did something for me in one way or another in my ability to know more about the tourism industry.
This mentorship requirement is consistent with Paul Sherlock's legacy and is the single most important eligibility requirement.
I think the people that were most important to me were all the individuals that had brought me up and treated me almost as their child, their underling. Individuals like Lois Smith and Bob Hart and those people that had been so involved in the grassroots effort for travel and tourism.
I had many mentors in the tourism industry. Probably the very first one was Don Patterson, who is also a Sherlock Award winner, and Frank Carroll, who again was a winner, Marilyn Spencer, Pat Brown.
Past recipients exemplify the best in our industry by believing in and continually promoting Ohio as a destination.
The award winners, the recipients of this award, are a unique group of people. Some of the finest I've ever known in my life.
The award means a great deal to the people who have received it.
I was absolutely stunned when I won it. And it's still very, very meaningful to me. It sits in my office. I think it's an absolutely beautiful piece of work in addition to being very important.
You know, I've been very fortunate in getting a few other little awards here and there, but out of all of them, I think this stands right at the top of them.
I received the Certified Tour Professional Award from the National Tour Association in 1990, but that doesn't even come close to the thrill and enjoyment of receiving the Sherlock Award.
One of the greatest surprises in my life, I had long since passed up thinking about ever receiving it, and in fact that morning, evening, whenever the presentation was, which I don't recall, I really thought that another person there was the one to receive it, and I was amazed. I couldn't believe it.
I'm very grateful to be a Paul Sherlock winner, and don't always feel like deserving one at times, but I'm sure every time I pick up that folder at the program at the OTA conference and see my name along there with what I consider some of the very classy people and very people that contributed to this industry a great deal, I'm very pleased, and I'm proud to see my name there.
It has such prestige. It was like you hear about the celebrities winning the Oscars, you know, at the Emmys, we here in Ohio win the Pauls.
It's one of those things where you're just overwhelmed, and I'm still overwhelmed today because I think there are so many other people out there that are probably have done more and done a lot to deserve the award, and more so than I have. And I feel that it's still very touching to me.
Here are our Paul Sherlock Award winners.
John Baltus started reading off the accomplishments of the person who was going to win the award. Dale turned to me and he said, "I'm trying to look through this crowd and pick out who this person is." He said, "It's got to be somebody really old." I said, "You're looking for some old silver-haired gentleman, I suppose?" And he said, "Yes," and he's looking around the room. And then I got up and he wondered why I was leaving the table so abruptly. I went up front to accept the award, and then I stopped laughing and I cried. But I was thrilled.
I remember the first Ohio Travel Association meeting I went to, Pat Brown won the award, and she darn near drowned us all with her tears. Couldn't understand it at the time, why she was so emotional. And I got just as emotional as she did.
When I realized it was going to be me, you do get a little bit embarrassed. Why would you be picked to be with the Pat Browns and the Corky Gutters and the Don Pattersons and the many people that contributed so much to this industry?
I was sitting there, they were talking about it, and all of a sudden it was my name called, which amazed me to no end. And from that point on, I was basically speechless.
Knowing the man as close as I did, it was a great honor. I've got it hanging on my wall right now.
I think it's important because of the visibility that it creates for the industry itself and for the organization.
Well, it was a source of great pride to be recognized literally by your peers. And the fact that it was the Paul Sherlock Award made it even more important to me. A great source of pride. I was very, very proud.
The Ohio Travel Association is proud of the accomplishments of these Paul Sherlock Award winners and salutes their contributions to Ohio tourism. They are Ohio Tourism All-Stars, members of our Hall of Fame.
You're a sunrise on a meadow, moonlight through the trees. You're rolling plains and fields of grain, dancing in the breeze. You're a gently rolling river and the Great Lake Erie shore. Ohio, you're all of these and more. You're the story of the pioneers who tamed a rugged land and built their humble cabins where today your cities stand. You're the dream they started on its way, and their spirit's still alive in you today.
I'm just honored to be here, right now, to say the things to that camera that should be said about Paul Sherlock.
He was an amazing man.
I think the wonderful thing about my Paul Sherlock Award is that Paul's name's on it and my name's on it. And I keep it hanging close to a door. If there's a fire, the firemen know that I have a dog, a cat, and an award.